So, welcome to Real Talk, Divorce, Life, and Everything in Between with Lorene Roberts and Richard Morden. And today we're diving into something that affects more people than we realise: narcissism. And we're not talking about someone who takes too many selfies. We're talking about the toxic, manipulative behaviour patterns that leave people feeling broken, confused, and like they've lost themselves. In this episode, we wanted to pull back the curtains, and narcissism is not always obvious. Sometimes it's charming, generous, even too good to be true at first. But beneath that, there's a darker pattern where control, gaslighting, and emotional manipulation and blame become the norm. We're criticised, then complimented, pushed away, then pulled back in. One minute you feel special, the next you feel like nothing's ever good enough. We're going to break down what narcissism actually is in simple terms, the tactics narcissists use to control and confront you, and why it can be so hard to leave, even when you know something isn't right. We'll also talk about what recovery looks like, how to rebuild your identity, trust yourself again, and stop falling into the cycle of self-blame, because healing is possible, and it starts with understanding what's happened, and you're not alone. So let's get to it. So Richard, when did you first actually experience narcissism in your life?
Well, I have to look at when I look my early days of dating when I was very young in my 20s, not a lot of confidence. You know, you're out there trying to find your way in relationships. And I remember I was dating this woman for a while, about 6 months, and very nice at the time. But every night after I dropped her off, when I got home, she would call up and bring me through the ringer of everything I did wrong. And just like and I was so confused and not a lot of confidence, but I mean, okay, so I'll try and be better. I'll try and do this better. And this lasted for 6 months. I mean, and you're dating weekly, a couple times a week, and every night got the same thing, the same dialogue. And a couple of my friends were asking me, what's wrong? Because I was feeling really down, like and not confident. And one day I woke up with this revelation, like, why am I putting up with this? Like what's there's no value for me to put up with this. And the next day I went up and met her and I broke up, and no idea who this person was. I mean, as far as narcissism, I didn't understand the term. I'd never heard of it. I didn't know it. I mean, this is decades later. I was finding out who this person is. But again, they were not so, the not recognizing the fact of how we're being criticized constantly,
Yeah, yeah.
being corrected, being judged, and therefore we start judging ourselves. But again, I was able to step away from it. I was able to not get caught up in the trap. And it doesn't mean, I think, and this person probably wasn't very clever in the ways they were doing it. So it allowed me to see some way out of it. But I mean, for many people, as Lorraine, you're going to explain, it's so much more manipulative than that.
Absolutely. And you are so lucky that you actually recognize that something's not right here. Where in my situation, it was the norm. Mum was narcissistic. One minute she was telling me, how much she always wanted me and how much she loved me. And the next, how I wasn't as good as my sister, and how, I wasn't, what, I wasn't achieving what she thought I should be achieving. I was always being threatened to be sent to the local high school because I wasn't performing well enough. I was told, it's so nice to have such an average child like you, when I had such a brilliant child. But, oh, we really wanted you so much and really loved you so much that you were born. But so it's pull between I'm not good enough, between I am good, I'm really loved and wanted. It's that pull that is norm, and it's confusing. And there is no boundaries there because you're so scared that you're going to be pushed away, and not wanted. And when it's your parent, it's very different to even a lover, or, a husband, a wife, a spouse, or boyfriend, girlfriend. It's you want your mother to really want you and love you. Blamed. I was the reason we had to up and move because I was so different to everyone else. That blame just sits inside you that you're just not good enough. You're just not there. It was my way of life. It was my norm. And that's really, really hard to live with. And you don't recognize it. Don't recognize it at all.
And I had some similar, but without the nice side. My father, as I realized, was a narcissist in a way, but military as well. But you knew everything he did wrong,
Mm,
and the constant shaming, the constant blaming, and undermining, the degrading. Wouldn't explain how to do things, but the moment you try to do it, and obviously you wouldn't know what you're doing, out come the anger, out come the shame and blame. So
mm,
you're always feeling like you're under the guns. But again, there was no love bombing side. There was only the anger, only the intensity. Again, the control factor was there,
mm.
and never allowed to ask questions, never allowed to gain information. There was never allowed that. But so you're constantly on the edge of, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what I'm doing, and everything has seemed wrong.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
it's so you judge yourself because nothing is right. So why would you try things if everything feels wrong? You stop doing things. But there was another part of me that kept pushing through that, and I'll talk more about that after.
yeah. Look, when I first heard the term, I'd never heard it before. I didn't know anything about it, and it just explained everything. So, how would you explain narcissism to someone who's never heard of the term outside of, social media?
I think, I mean, for many, I think now that the love bombing is so undermining. For many people, they feel they've never had someone pay such attention to it. They've never had someone understand them so thoroughly. They've never had someone be so attentive. I mean, and it's such an energy that just it overwhelms you. It's such a seductive energy that you're literally paralyzed, and it's so visceral. And you see when when it starts to flow the other direction, again you're caught in a sand. You don't know what to believe. Suddenly you'll explain this better. The criticism comes in, the slander comes in, the ignoring comes in, and you think, well, maybe, and then, and one person said, maybe I'm too sensitive.
Yeah,
Maybe there's something with me. Maybe I shouldn't be at this. I should be more stronger. And of course they'll reinforce that. Yeah, yeah, you're too sensitive. So don't take it so personal.
yeah, yeah,
I'm just giving you some correction here. So just, like hang on. But, and then, as you said, it starts to become, the range becomes broader in how, the love comes in, but then the attacks start getting deeper and more cutting.
mm, mm,
And really then the time period of love bombing gets shorter and the attack cycles become larger, much longer.
mm, mm. And I honestly believe that narcissists look for their prey, or unless it's their children, and then they're automatically born into the
Mhm.
family. But they look for their prey because they look for someone who's got less boundaries than other people, who are less self-assured within themselves. So someone who doesn't believe in themselves is a great target because you can love bomb them so they feel amazing, and then you can attack them and the person will go, well, yes, I know I'm not good. I know that, I'm not worthy. I know that I'm not. So therefore you're not telling me anything I don't know about myself. So they go, yes, you beauty. And they just throw more and more and more at you. And you go, yeah, I know this. And they absolutely destroy the person you are because you're thinking, well, I always thought I was bad, but I didn't realize I was this bad, but I must be really this bad because this person who loves me so much can see the truth of who I am, who is so bad, you know, not good enough, not worthy of anything. And you've got no self-assurance, you've got no self-worth, no self-belief. And when someone attacks you, they take anything that you do have away from you. So you go from, having this much to suddenly having none whatsoever. I don't know if you found that as well. And if you've got no boundaries, the boundaries, they can just do what they want to you, and it's okay because you're not worthy of anything.
You literally are in survival mode with them.
Yeah.
After a period of time, you're literally survival. You're at the beck and call. You're just trying to manage. You're finding ways to get things done, but there is no substance within you. And again, you're at the whim of their dictatorship.
Yeah.
And so every day is just a day of survival. The only, rest you might have, peace you might have is when you actually go to sleep at night. But the daytime, you're literally you're filled with tension. You're filled with this fraught and trying to make it through your day, but you have no thought of escape. You don't know, you're not there yet to realize how do I like escape. Escape isn't even a word or a term that's plausible for you.
No, no. And you can't identify that it's them, it's not you, because your self-worth is like, but I'm so pathetic, how it can't be them because they're so wonderful. And they tell me how wonderful I am, but I know that I'm not. And it's so subtle. And it just absolutely damages and destroys the other person. And they can't see it. They can't see it because they're just living survival all the time. So let's talk
So
about love bombing. I mean, it's the most amazing thing. Have you experienced it?
I've witnessed it many times in a sense of how people, um, when you really start to recognize, you watch somebody talking to somebody, and it's like they hold so much energy in those moments. They are they're looking at you and then to this person that you're the most interesting person I've ever met in my life.
Yeah.
And it's literally they're drawing every ounce of energy out of them. And when you really see it, you're standing beside, but and you're thinking, oh my God, like it's a thing to witness. It's absolutely incredible to witness and makes you, it can make your gut curdle. But that person who's being listened to, like it's like no one's ever paid this much attention to me. And it could be a helper in a store. I've seen this. I've seen people, and the other person's just drawing information out of them like a vacuum. But
Mm,
it's like a vampire energy, especially with empathic people. They're there to take your energy.
mm, mm. Yep. And what about gaslighting? Can you explain gaslighting and give us a couple of examples of that?
I'm not, yeah, well, mine's drawing a blank on the gaslighting, but how they frame things. Yeah, I'm going to stump on that one right now but how they frame things and almost, um, I'm going to let you do that because right now my mind's blank on that one.
I, I'm sort of a bit the same. Gaslighting is absolutely, telling someone how wonderful they are and then at the same time, you know, diminishing them as well.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. And again, brain cramp, but we're allowed to do this as live video. So, but you're right. It's the swing back and forth in the same sentence, and like it's somebody said, they start off being praising and then at the end of it, they'll turn around and criticize everything you just did. So it's like
Yeah,
you're lifted up and then your feet are pulled out from underneath you.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And you can't, well, I remember, there was no way that I could leave because I didn't think I was even capable of remotely looking after myself. I thought that this was my lot in life because I was so useless, so hopeless, so pathetic that I couldn't look after myself.
Yeah.
So it's that belief that stops you ever trying to leave, and people don't understand. Why can't you leave? And when you're told that you're so lucky, you've never been hit and never been in an abusive relationship, you think, oh yeah, how lucky am I? But you don't see the demoralization as being abuse. I've never been
Well,
hit. I've never had a broken arm. I've never had a black eye. I've never had to lie about anything to anybody before because what happened, nobody's ever seen. So how lucky am I and when you're told, I'm really lucky because you've never been abused. Hmm. It makes you think about it very differently when you realize what abuse really is.
and flip the term from never to always.
Yes, exactly.
It's a global term and tournament. You're always being abused. It's so 24/7 that it's the norm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So people really do find leaving a narcissistic a relationship much harder than leaving a physical one, because the physical one's obvious.
Yeah.
You know, when you've got to go to the hospital because you've got broken bones, it's obvious. But no one sees the broken heart. No one sees, the broken mind. No one sees the feeling of despair. That's not broken in a physical sense.
And for many, they're leaving an environment to the outside world looks perfect. Because the person who's a perpetrator will look like a hero to everybody, and you look like the sod leaving, because so often, and they will say, well, and everybody believes that you're the bad person.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. And everyone will say, "Oh, we thought you had a fantastic marriage. We thought everything was absolutely wonderful." Yeah, no, no.
Yeah.
Yeah, what was happening on the outside wasn't happening on the inside.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's that love bombing that really creates the addiction to the narcissist and makes it so strong as well.
Mhm.
When you're constantly told, like, oh, the longer we're together, the more I just love you, the more you believe it. And there's a real addiction to being loved, because that's all you want in the first place.
Mhm.
So you're addicted to that really good feeling when it comes. So you get the good and the bad and the good and the bad, and it's like the good comes and you think, oh my God, this is amazing. Oh, but he's right, I am so bad, I am so hopeless, I am so, useless, I can't do anything. But oh, he loves me so much. He understands that I'm so pathetic, and oh, but isn't it amazing that he still wants to be with me when I am so useless and so terrible and so, and that's what you're living with, that backwards and forwards, that seesaw that goes up and down and up and down. And oh yeah, he sees my faults, but he loves me anyhow. That's what's the addiction. That's the part that makes it so incredibly, I don't even know.
But here's the key point for someone to look at. They see your faults and they continue to tell you about them over and over and over and over.
And
So
over
how many times do
and
you need to be reminded of all these faults?
and these faults destroy you.
Yeah.
They destroy your self-worth.
Mhm.
They destroy any belief you have in yourself,
Yeah.
because there is no belief to have in you, because you are so pathetic, useless, whatever. But they love you. Oh, they love you so much. And that's what destroys you.
But the point is, one of the things too is you'll understand you're never able to voice your concerns. You're never able to, your voice never counts. Anytime you trying to apply your voice to this relationship, it will always be turned against you. So you'll never ever be able to speak what's really going on, or have someone ever in those side listen to you ever in those relationships.
You'll be told that you don't remember things. You've forgotten things. You've got that wrong. You've twisted that. That's not what happened at all. Like, where were you? Why weren't you at the same place I was? Because that wasn't what happened. And you believe it. You believe that you weren't there. You didn't have the right reality to understand what happened. You can't remember it. Don't you remember I told you I was going out? I told you I was going out with the boys. Why don't you ever remember anything that I tell you? And you start thinking to yourself, oh, my memory's really bad. Oh, I don't remember him saying that to me. But he must have said it to me because he's just told me he did. And then he'll say to you, but, well, you lied about that because that's not the truth. And you think, I don't think I lied. That's not what I remember. Well, geez, maybe I did lie. And then he said to me, well, but you're a liar because you lied about the thing the other day. And you start going, oh, I must be a liar. Oh, I'm a liar. And all of a sudden, you've made yourself be the liar. But the reality is, he's the liar. He's not
Mhm.
saying the truth because he's manipulating everything. You said you would do that. Why haven't you done it? Geez, I don't remember saying I was going to do that. Yeah, you've got no memory. You can't remember anything that I tell you. You say you'll do something and you never, ever, ever do it. Why don't you do things that you say you're going to do? And you start going, I don't remember I said I was going to do that. Oh, gee, my memory's going bad. Oh my God, and I'm lying all the time. And I don't even realize I'm lying. And you start questioning everything about yourself.
Yeah.
It's really interesting. So, what have
So
you seen with clients? Have they come up with this sort of thing as well?
the biggest thing is right now is a point that their voice is never heard. And when after, after the fact, because every time, or they see the pattern,
Mm,
because each the relationship, multiple relationships are like this, they'll attract the same type of partner. And my work is really helping people recognize their attraction patterns, who they're attracting and why,
yeah.
and change that. But understand, you look back, the pattern is they never had any validation on the other side for them. And never probably never validated growing up, probably, and then get into relationships that there's no one ever gives them that sense of listening to them and being compassionate with them, and then because they'll start off a little bit, then they'll quickly turn on like a dime, and they'll make it all about you. All you're so sensitive. Why is it you believe this, and what's wrong with you? And it immediately gets turned, and again, they're so good at the manipulation cycle. They just go, you get confused, you're not even, and then you can't even remember what it was you brought up for the discussion.
Mm,
And so then it goes back, and well, it's about you every time. So all of a sudden they're into the shame and blame on you.
mm.
And again, well, you're so damn sensitive. Every time I bring up a point, you start getting emotional, and I can't stand it everywhere because it happens all the time. And
Oh,
about this time, you're a wreck. And this is on both genders. There's many, 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 many
oh,
narcissistic
yes.
women as well that
Oh, absolutely.
absolutely manipulate their families and terrorize their own children as men do, and terrorize their partners and friends. And so it's the same tactic. It's just the energy is so invasive and overwhelming. And again, it's like you're caught in this goo that you can't get out of.
Mm, mm. Yep,
So
absolutely.
a question for you, Lorraine. When did you first have any indication you were in a narcissistic relationship?
I'd never heard of the term until well after I'd left, but I remember my adult daughter came to me and said, Mum, you need to leave. Dad is abusing you. Now, if anybody else in this earth had come to me and said that to me, I'd have told them to nick off and leave me alone and don't be ridiculous. But when she said it, I actually had to look at it and go, and she said, what he's doing to you is wrong. It's not right. And I went, oh, and I had to look at it. And in the looking at it, I realized that I didn't feel worthy. I didn't feel capable of ever getting out of this relationship. And then I looked at my mother in law, who was obviously in a very abusive relationship, not physically, but very emotionally. But yeah, I realised that I was going to be my mother in law and live to this till the end of the day. I couldn't leave. I was not strong enough emotionally, physically, mentally, in any way whatsoever. And I had resigned myself to this was going to be what my life was going to look like. My life was going to look like hers. So, yeah, I am so grateful that he found someone else and moved on. At the time, I was broken, destroyed, didn't know what was ever going to happen, and took me an awful long way because by that stage, I also didn't know what I wanted because whatever I ever wanted was never.
Yeah.
I had nothing really. I was really just a shell of myself. So I had to find myself and start from scratch. So that's why I love working with women who don't know who they are and they have to find themselves. So yeah, that's basically my story in a nutshell. Seeing someone come out of themselves and knowing what they want and actually embracing life and finding their passions, finding what they can do and totally reinventing their life. Oh, it is just the most amazing thing watching these women totally, yeah, recreate themselves
Mhm.
and become themselves.
Yeah.
And if I hadn't have gone through this journey, I wouldn't be who I am now. And I'm so grateful for the journey that I've been through. It has been the best experience and given me the best keys to life, the best knowledge, learning, understanding, compassion. It's given me everything. So, I'm very, very, very grateful for my past
Mhm.
and for my future. And I'm really grateful for the women that I get to work with and change their life as well.
And that's when I work with, like I say, post-divorce women, a lot of them have been in narcissistic relationships. So similar, I help them really actually come home to their body, because the money are not even there. So through the connection process we do, the grounding, the emotional, I'll give the technical side of regulation, starting to help their nervous system calm down through tools and actual physical processes so they can start to feel a bit safe,
Yep.
and safe in it, being safe in their body. So it's, like
Yeah.
I can actually sit here and I talk about the word no because they start giving themselves, they're so used to being dictated to, they don't know have any boundaries.
Yes.
And
Yes.
boundaries come when there's emotional regulation, when you have a nervous system that is starting to calm down. Then, and when I talk about teaching people no, it's a simple word but it's very magical in the process. And we both do that, the sense of no to all the endless requests because people draining their time because they'll be such a giver of their time that when they start to say no and realize they have time for themselves, those no's become yeses to you inside.
Mm.
And those little yeses become visceral sense of when I say no, it's like, oh, it's almost a giddy little feeling because you realize I don't have to do or think anything about that. The yeses help that inner connection. And when I talk about the yeses, eventually you start to realize I do have good intuition. I can trust myself. I can trust how I feel. And I learned that trust and how I move forward into the world with who I am. And that's a sense of freedom that they may have never experienced.
Do you know one of the most amazing things was, I'd get on an aeroplane and they'd say, now if you've got young children, you must put your mask on first before you put it
Mhm.
on the children because if you don't, and I used to think, what a selfish thing to say. Of course you put it on the children first. And there's no way I would have ever have put that mask on myself first without putting it on my kids first. I could not grasp that at all. Now I understand that if I don't look after me, I can't help everyone else in the world. And that's what I do. I help everyone else, but I need to look after and nurture myself so I can then share myself out. Because otherwise, I will stay broken and be broken forever.
So what you just said is when you fill your cup first
Yeah.
with all the things that you require and need, it is being so full, then you have more to share with others, but you share with discernment.
Yes.
And you literally hold space with yourself. You're not being trapped and trying to rescue people around you because you have choice. And you can choose to be with people because you choose to, not because you need to.
Yes.
There's a distinction. And when you understand that, then life becomes more truly in the flow of who you are, and you understand how much you create your own reality.
Mm, that's right. That's right. So, Richard, last words for the people listening to this.
What were they?
There's no getting out of it.
Yeah, Oli, that's a good point. Thank you. Yeah, because you're right. There is no, if you're looking for a resolution or a solution with a narcissist or some type of settlement, give it up. It never will be, because they'll always be finding a way to attack, to undermine, to manipulate. So don't look for a resolution. You just literally have to walk away and take the best of you to walk away and then create yourself into something that you believe in, that's for you, because they're never going to concede or acquiesce to any kind of point of consent. So don't look for it. It's never going to happen. Look after yourself and accept yourself and learn to love and forgive yourself. And that's the work that we do.
Yeah, yeah. So if you're going through a divorce, it's about winning for him or for her. It's about winning. That's the most important thing, regardless. And probably the lawyer will be the person who wins because they've got to beat you.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter who walks out with what, providing they've beaten you. That's all they want. That's all they want, is to beat you and win the situation. So it might cost you everything, and they think they've won and they walk out with the last dollar, but they've got that last dollar because they have to win. Well,
Thank
thank
you.
you for the conversation today, Richard. Appreciate the time that we've spent together.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, and I don't know what we're going to speak about next time, but we'll talk about something that'll be of interest.
It'll be close. It'll be good. Thank you.
Bye. Bye from Lorene. Bye from Richard.